New Thought Media Network and the Universal Joy Center are proud to bring you The Joy Show. One voice, one story, infinite inspiration. Join your host, Barbara Jean, every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time or 1 p.m. Mountain Time. Tune in live or watch anytime on youtube.com/@UJOYC. The Joy Show with Barbara Jean. The perfect way to get inspired on Friday afternoons. Only on New Thought Media Network. And please like, share, and subscribe. And now, let's join Barbara Jean on The Joy Show.
Good afternoon and welcome to The Joy Show. This is a place where we celebrate the truth that joy means just one you. There is just one you, unrepeatable. One voice, one story, infinite inspiration. So every week we explore the beauty and the brilliance of being exactly who we are and how to live to the greatest possible expression of that. Discovering gifts, talents, and inner wisdom that already are within us. And I'm Barbara Jean, your host, and I'm grateful that you're here this afternoon. And before we begin our conversation together, I'd like to acknowledge the land I am on. I acknowledge that for thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. We honor the enduring presence, wisdom, and stewardship of Indigenous peoples, past, present, and emerging. As we gather online, we also honor the many Indigenous nations and territories across Canada and the United States, from which members of our community may be joining us today. Today, this meeting place remains home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful for the opportunity to work, live, and play on this land. Miigwech. All right, so today the show is a little bit different. I've been doing a couple of these like this. So the key to remember that is joy is not something we wait for. Joy is something we practice. Because if joy depended on everything in life going smoothly, most of us would be waiting a very long time. So life has a way of bringing us surprises, some wonderful, some difficult, and some that may ask us to grow. So what if nothing is wrong with me? Imagine that for a moment. Nothing is wrong with me. Now, how do we stay connected to joy while life is still unfolding? Like, I used to think joy was something that you arrived at when things were going well, or when I was perfect, or when I was good, or when I was behaving. When I was doing all the things that made my mom mad, I was like, oh man, no joy here. But joy would come in the moments when I got a Christmas present or a birthday present, but here's the thing. Joy doesn't arrive when things are going well. Joy has always existed within us. So when the circumstances lined up, when the plan worked, when people behaved the way we hoped they would, but life taught me something different. Joy isn't the absence of challenge. Joy is the presence of alignment. The presence of alignment. It's that moment when we remember who we really are, even when life feels uncertain. And that remembering is a practice. Yes, that is a practice. So there's 3 ways joy can become a practice. And one of them is with awareness. So joy often disappears when we become lost and worry about the past or fear about the future. But the present moment is where life actually happens. And when we return to this moment, even for a breath, something shifts and we begin to notice small things. Kind word, a moment of stillness, a glimpse of beauty, and joy begins in awareness. So most of the time, and not all of the time, but most of the time, we tend to be performing. We are acting the way we think somebody wants us to act. We go to a job interview and we dress a certain way, we behave in a certain way, and we watch the words we use, and we try to put on this really great front. Nothing wrong with that. It's a job interview. We should be professional. That doesn't mean we shouldn't bring our full, whole self into the conversation. I think we need to. So, who am I when I stop performing? When I stop pretending? Do you remember the first time you met your in laws? Or the first time you went to a new school and you had to meet the teacher and the principals and all the other students? When those things happen, there tends to be a lot of anxiety that can show up for some of us. And when that happens, we tend to become agitated, frustrated. We feel like we're not enough. There's all kinds of stuff that comes up in those moments. But if we could allow ourselves to stop performing, stop trying to impress, uh, forget about fixing or changing who we are, and instead accepting who we are, and then living from that place of acceptance, we would probably find that life happens quite joyfully most of the time. So joy begins in awareness. Joy grows when we stop abandoning ourselves. So we've learned to perform and to prove and to please. Pardon me. But joy returns when we allow ourselves to be authentic. Yeah. When you allow you to be you and show up as you truly are, that's when joy is felt, known, and realized. So when we remember, I do not need to earn my worth, I'm worthy. I do not need to become someone else. I am someone. And I'm unique and special like everybody else. So joy lives in the courage to be just one you. Who are you? And then joy deepens when we choose gratitude. Now, gratitude doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means recognizing that even in the midst of life's complexities, there is still beauty, there's still love, there's still possibility. And when we begin noticing those things, joy quietly returns, and there it shows up. Joy shows up in that moment. So, what are some of the things we could think about? Imagine for a moment what would happen or what would change if you trusted yourself. Not later, not when you're ready, but right here. What if you trusted yourself right here, right now? And what are you pretending not to know? What are you pretending not to know? I hear that quite often from people. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why this is happening. You ever said any of those things yourself? I know I certainly have. But what if we do know? What if by saying we don't know, we're actually telling a lie? Now, consciously, we may not be aware of what we know, right? It might be buried underneath a little scrap heap of negativity or something. So we may not currently have access to it. But doesn't mean we cannot ever get access to it. It just means in this moment, I'm not seeing it, but I can shift and change and begin to. So again, gratitude is about acknowledging and remembering that who I am always is. That even in the midst of challenges, there's still beauty and love and possibility. And we can begin to notice these things. And when we do, we begin to feel better. So there's a number of questions that I've asked JJ to put into the comments or to run a little loop around the video. So I'd like you to think about these questions. These are reflective questions. You might want to write them down so that you've got them throughout the week so you can come back to them on the regular. But it's something that I want you just to reflect on. You don't need to answer them right now, but sit with it and maybe reflect on it for a full week. And then take some time in between each of these questions. So, where in my life have I made joy conditional? Where in my life have I made joy conditional? Well, when I think about that, I've noticed a couple of times, in my work life and in my relationships, that if I feel a bit of disappointment, I might withhold joy from the people around me. I don't know if you've ever done that, but let's say your partner does something you've asked them not to do and they do it anyway. Not something serious, but you ask them to take out the garbage and they didn't take it out, and then you see it there 2 hours later and you're like, "Oh, come on." In that moment, you've made joy conditional upon this person taking out the trash. It's not really worth it though. I'd rather be joyful than cranky. So we're always at choice about how we respond to these different situations. And so if we're responding in frustration, that just means we've made joy conditional in that moment. Or maybe you've heard yourself say at some point, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I graduate. I'll be happy when I get a job. I'll be happy when I get married. I'll be happy when I have children. I'll be happy when I retire. I'll be happy when. When doesn't exist. When doesn't exist. And because it doesn't exist, we've just basically put happiness or joy up on the shelf, pushed it to the back, and piled a bunch of boxes in front of it so we can't get to it. I'll be happy when is one of the greatest mistakes we make in our language, when we decide that we'll be happy when. So, what if joy could exist right here in this now moment? What if joy could exist right here? How might that change things for you? How might that change things? And I mean, think about it. If joy is an attribute of you, which I believe it is, if joy is an attribute of you, would it not be present always? It would have to be, wouldn't it? It would be present always. Now, we wouldn't always feel it. We wouldn't always see it. We wouldn't always notice it because our mind would run off onto a little tangent or something, and then that would not show up for us. But what small practice would help me return to myself? Think about that. What small practice helps me return to my authentic self? Well, maybe a walk. The weather's starting to get a little bit warmer. Maybe we go out for a walk through a park, or walk along the lake or the ocean, or just take a walk. Breathe in that fresh air. A breath sometimes is all we need. Taking a deep breath and allowing ourselves to just be fully, fully present. Yes. That breath can bring us out of the mind game that we're in and back into where we really, really should be. A moment of stillness, just a pause. I'm just going to take a pause, and I'm going to relax for a minute or two or three in silence and in stillness. That also can really help us to become more centered within our divine self. And of course, a conversation with a friend. Conversation with a friend can be so helpful. It can really make a big difference on what we're doing and how we're doing it and the way we do it. And it's fantastic. So I just want you to think about some of the things that you've gone through in your life, and what would it require of you to begin to change things so that you could live your best self right now? So, what am I pretending not to know? What am I pretending not to know? And what would change if I trusted myself? What would change if I trusted myself? Huh. Probably a lot of things, right? And you might sit back and say, but I do trust myself. And I'll just say, are you sure? Ask yourself if you've ever made a promise to yourself and not kept it. You know, those things we do January 1 every year, we decide that we're going to lose weight, stop smoking, go to the gym. We say those things, don't we? And probably a whole pile more. But how many days into January before we forget about them? Hmm. So, right there in that moment, I've given myself reason to distrust me. I say I'm going to do one thing and then I do another. I'll tell you, if our friends and family did stuff like that, we would start to distrust them, would we not? So then the other question that I have is, what am I loyal to that no longer loves me back? What am I hanging on to? You ever hung on to something? I used to sit back sometimes and say, oh, yeah, I let go of things all the time with claw marks deeply imprinted on them. In other words, I'm letting go with great resistance. But maybe it's a role in our life, like, a job we're doing or a position we are in the family or the way that we support different people. Maybe it's a role, or it could be a belief pattern. I believe that this is how I should behave, or I believe that this is the right thing to do. It could be a belief, it could be a pattern of, hmm, what have I done in the past in this circumstance? What could I do now that would bring me through this? And it could also be an expectation. So we sometimes have things going on that we're not really excited to let go of. And in the chat, Rachel Allen has said, definitely made a few bad New Year resolutions. LOL. Yeah, haven't we all? The key is to sit back and say, here's what I'm going to do, and then do it. I know, rocket science, right? Say what you're going to do and then do that. Tell the truth and do it quickly. That's sort of one of my mantras. So, what have how have I made joy conditional in my life? When I think about that question, that is the I'll be happy when question. I mean, think about that for a minute. People will go, well, I'll be happy when I have children. And then we have children and, they cry all night, or, they go out and get into trouble, or they, right? They can be a challenge. Doesn't make it wrong or bad. It just means that I need not put my joy on hold while I live life. What I want to do is integrate all of it. So the key is that I am joy. I am peace. I am love. When we begin to phrase these with the I am statement, we're taking ownership of the truth of who we are. So we're no longer saying untruths to ourselves, we're speaking truth. And in that truth, we can begin to find a way to talk about life that will allow us to be more harmonious with the life that we have. And when we do that, conditions have been removed and joy shows up easily, readily, and actually immediately. The journey that we're on is not, it's not to get somewhere. It's not to accomplish something. It's about living. It's about being present in each moment. And, maybe you've taken a mindfulness class at some point in time or thought about taking one. And in mindfulness, we're present. I remember starting my mindfulness practice and doing the dishes one day, which was a task I really disliked. And I decided to do it mindfully. So as I was filling the sink with hot water and pouring in the soap, I was watching the bubbles as they came up, and the bubbles were fascinating because as the light hit them, little rainbows occurred in the dish sink. Little rainbows. We love seeing rainbows, don't we? But how often have we been doing the dishes and noticed a rainbow? Probably haven't even noticed it, going, "Oh, I gotta do this." Yeah. But then we go to have a meal the next day and the dishes are clean. We have a clean place to sit down and eat. It feels really, really good. So we wanna sit back and change, um, a lot of what we think about life and the way we journey through it, and to look at how we've made conditional so many aspects of our life. What if we stop that and we begin to pay really close attention? So, joy begins with awareness. So, joy will disappear when we're lost in worry or fear. But the moment that we actually get present in what is, that's when things begin to shift and move for us. We can begin to notice different things that we hadn't noticed before. Maybe we can realize the kindness that a friend is showing us, or our partner, our spouse, which then allows us to talk about life and look at life from a little different vantage point, to go, wow, there is good here. I know it looks like the world is going to hell in a handbasket, but there is good. There is good here. Always there is good. So if we reframe and begin to speak about life in a new way, something new can emerge. And it's not about abandoning ourselves, it's about really owning our true self and our true identity and becoming absolutely in love with this divine being that we are. So the journey is really about waking up to the truth and to start talking about that instead of talking the untruths that maybe we have been talking in the past. So, what wants to emerge through me now? Hmm. What wants to emerge through me now? When I think about life and I think about joy, and I think about my own life, of course, um, I made a lot of mistakes in my life. However, today I look at them a little bit differently because everything that I have done in my life experience brought me to this moment. It brought me to now. I am the woman that I am because of the journey that I have walked, not for any other reason. And because this journey is so full, we can sometimes forget how precious it is. We might look at only the problems as we get older. This happened, that happened, the other thing happened. Or we might only look at, the things we did well and forget about anything else and not learned from them. See, our mistakes give us an opportunity to learn something new, to expand our awareness, to become more conscious of things. And our successes help us to celebrate the awareness that we have, in fact, accomplished that. So, what wants to emerge through me now, not who I was and not who others expect. Now I'm going to just be me. So, how do I do that? Doesn't that seem like a funny question? How do I be me? But it's really, it's true. Most of us have been pretending. We go to work and we behave one way, and we come home and we behave another way, and we, go to church and we behave another way, and we go visit a friend and we behave another way. And we meet the in-laws for the first time and we behave another way, and we go on a first date and we behave another way. We're not we're not honoring ourselves in doing that. We are in fact we're in fact saying we're broken. We're flawed somehow, that somehow we're not good enough. Yeah. And so we pretend. We pretend to be something that we think this other person will like, or these other people will like. But the truth is, how could they like something that isn't real? So even if they like me when I'm wearing my variety of masks, they actually haven't yet met me. So they don't actually know for certain who I am. And so their liking me is based on an illusion. Ew, imagine that. It's an illusion. Yeah, this journey is really individual and it's precious. And it's important that each one of us walk it consciously, like just paying attention to the way we hide, or if we do something, let's say you're house sitting for someone and you break an ornament accidentally, but you break it. And now you're running around town for the next week before they come back to try and find another one to replace it. No luck. So now you have to fess up. Now, some people are really good at going, picking up the phone and going, I hate to ruin your vacation, but I just broke that beautiful little ornament that you had sitting on the mantle. I am so sorry. 9 times out of 10, they'll go, oh, don't worry about it. Had it for years. It's not a problem. Someone might go, that was a precious thing. Oh no, now what? Doesn't mean they're mad at you. It just means that they're going to miss that item, whatever it is. But some of us will flat out lie and go, they'll come home and go, where's that ornament that was on the mantle? And we go, I don't know, what ornament? And pretend like we never saw it, never knew. Meanwhile, it's in the trash. See, there's always choices. We always have choices. Now, the choice that brings us closer to joy is the one that's honest and authentic, the one that celebrates, our uniqueness and allows us to have made a mistake and to be responsible and to own up to it. Very important that we do that, and that we take the time, at least occasionally, to tell the truth to ourselves as well. Really, really important. So, what if in this moment there isn't a problem, but rather an invitation to grow, to soften, to choose again? What might that look like in life? I could choose something different. I chose to do this and it's painful and awful and I'm not fond of it. Well, let me make a new choice. I remember as a kid hearing the phrase, you've made your bed, now lie in it. Okay, well, I'll lie in it for a minute. I don't like it. So I get up and I remake it. Right? It's not the end of the world, and yet somehow it felt that way. You know, when I made a mistake and my mom would say, "Well, you made your bed, now you lie in it." I thought, "Well, that's it. Life as I know it is over." But it wasn't. It continued. So how is it that we continue in this journey without ever really coming to understand who we really are? And on that note, we're going to take a short commercial break and we'll be right back. You're watching The Joy Show here on the New Thought Media Network. Don't go away, it'll just be a moment.
Please help us say thank you to all of our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Center for Spiritual Living United Life, Sunshine Cathedral, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Universal Joy Center, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center, Ottawa, Home Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. On behalf of New Thought Media Network, thank you, and please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, come be you.
Well, knowing that there's just one you and how important it is to be who you are, the journey that we're on, and I think we sometimes forget this, we think we have to get somewhere, we think we have to do something, but what if we came to an understanding that there is nowhere to go and nothing to get? There's simply the opportunity to be fully present, to show up in a way that would honor our true self. And how can we do that? Where do we begin? And I think part of it is to begin by being gentle with ourselves. Have you ever noticed your self-talk can be sometimes pretty critical and harsh? "Oh, you idiot. Oh, what were you thinking?" Anybody ever do that? Or how about, "Oh, I'm so angry right now. That person did blah, blah, blah to me. I just hate them so much. I'll get even." Anybody ever do that? Probably. Somebody must have. Here's the thing. Whatever's going on within us is for us. Let me repeat that. Whatever's going on within us is for us. Whatever's happening in life is taking us somewhere. Now, where it's taking us, we may not know at the moment, but it is taking us somewhere. And all of it is serving some kind of purpose. So as we journey along, there's no mistakes or accidents in what we experience in our lives. And I know some of it feels pretty harsh, and some of it is pretty uncomfortable. But here's the thing, it just is what it is. Just is what it is. You see, everything that I'm now experiencing, everything that I see around me has already been created. In order for me to move, I have to create something new. I have to create a new idea, a new thought, a new image, I've got to create again. See, we're always creating. We're creative beings. And as we create things, we move toward what we have created. And so joy becomes a practice because I'm doing what I love which brings me more joy. And if I continually do what I love, if I choose to show up as who I really am, if I allow myself to be authentic and kind and loving and all of that, if I allow that to happen, if I allow myself to be seen, odds are pretty good. My conversations are going to be more honest. My life is going to feel more real. And joy is going to become a natural expression, not something I have to fabricate, but something that just automatically shows up. I remember when my youngest child was really, really small, and we had these little white teddy bears above her crib on a mobile. And they were just kind of a creamy colored white thing. And I remember one day watching her, and she's laying in there and she's looking up, and all of a sudden she has this great big smile, huge smile. It's beautiful. And I thought, wow, there's joy. There's joy. Joy is a natural part of our being. It's always been there. From the moment we were born, straight through to the moment that we die. In fact, it probably continues beyond that. So if joy has always been, will always be, then why do we struggle to allow it to express? What is it about us that causes us to hold back what we're thinking or what we're feeling? Could we not get curious about what's coming? Couldn't we get curious about life? Joy begins the moment I become curious instead of critical. Curious instead of critical. Remember, there's just one you. And that critical aspect of ourselves is something that, well, doesn't really serve us. I mean, think about it. How many times have we sat back and got upset about something and then later looked at it going, what on earth was it that made me so upset? It's often not the thing we're seeing or touching or doing, but rather how we're feeling in that particular moment. How we're feeling. And if we can get curious about that, if we can get curious about what we feel, what we're thinking, what's going on for us moment by moment, if we can get curious about those things, we can really make a huge difference in our lives. Massive. Not because we're changing, but because we're revealing the truth. We're revealing the essence that has always been. There's just one you. There is just one you. Not two, not three, just one. There's only one of us here. And because there's only one of us here, it's important that we acknowledge that oneness, that we celebrate that oneness, and that we allow ourselves to live from it moment by moment and day by day. So when we look at the things that we're doing and the way that we're doing them, there's something wonderful that we could do instead. Instead of hiding, instead of pretending, instead of lying or cheating or stealing, we could look in the mirror and tell ourselves, I love you. Yes, I love you. Absolutely. See, when we come to a place of loving ourselves, that is like putting a beautiful healing balm onto, some pain that we have in our body. Yeah. Imagine going through life excited and delighted. Imagine going through life full of energy and vitality and just feeling grateful to journey along. I mean, what would that be like? No more masks, no more pretending, no more, well, I'll get around to it someday, but rather an excitement to jump into life, to travel around the world, to meet new people, to swim in the ocean and swim in the lakes and do all the things that we can imagine doing that we've never yet done, or even redo some of the things we've already done that we enjoyed. Joy becomes a practice when we make it a priority. Yeah, a priority. Joy is way better than misery. I don't know why we choose misery, but we do. But joy is so much better. It feels good, and people like to be around people who are joyful. Have you noticed that? They're more apt to hang around with a joyful person than somebody who is constantly complaining about their lives. So it's up to us to start practicing. Every time something shows up that feels off, take a breath. Look at the situation and ask yourself, what am I to do? And what am I to be? What to do and what to be. See, being is our nature, and doing is something that humans like to do. We like to do stuff. So this journey requires a commitment from us, a commitment to show up, a commitment to be present, a commitment. So how do I make the commitment? Wow. Well, how do I make the commitment? Well, making the commitment's pretty easy. Yes, it is. What does it require to make the commitment? Well, the commitment is I'm going to do A, B, or C, right? So I decide on A. I'm going to do A. And then something comes up. And I go, well, who's going to know if I don't do it? Maybe I'll just skip it. Go hang with my friends, have fun. Now, I only did that once because I got a big fat 0 and realized the error of my ways. There was no joy in that moment as I had to take that home to my father. But the reality is that each one of us is part of the greater whole. And what we bring to the table is essential and important. And so it's um, really serious to pretend that nothing's going on. We want to fully acknowledge life. We want to fully acknowledge who we are and what we bring. We want to completely acknowledge the very essence of our true identity. Yeah, because that's where the magic lives. That's where the magic lives. And joy gets bigger and deeper and more expansive when we choose to be grateful. When we choose to be grateful. And gratitude, it doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means recognizing that even in the midst of life's complexities, there's still beauty, there's still love, there's still possibility. None of that has gone away. And when we begin noticing those things, joy quickly returns. Doesn't take time, it's just quick. Jumps right in there and goes, yes, pick me. So you remember I asked you some questions earlier? They're not something to answer immediately, but maybe maybe JJ could put it in the comments, or he's probably been scrolling them. But if you put it in the comments, you could copy it and continue to reflect on them at home as well. Where in my life have I made joy conditional? Is there any new awareness in that particular area for anyone? And what practices can I do? What practices can I do that will help me to um, really live my best life and to be joyful more than I currently am? And I like the list: a walk, a breath, a moment of stillness, conversation with a friend. Like the conversation might bring us right back to that walk or breath, that moment of stillness. It'll bring us right back to that place where it was like, wow, I have no idea what's going on, but something is. Something is. When we um, when we think about our lives and the way that we live them and the people that we connect with on the way, have you ever noticed how you meet people who are somewhat like you, who have similar beliefs to you, who are walking a similar path to you? I've noticed it a lot. I've noticed it a lot, where all of a sudden there's all these people and there's weird alignments that are happening that I'm like, wow, how did that happen? So the journey is just that, it's a journey. It doesn't have a destination. Yeah, we die and get rid of this body, but who we are continues. I really believe that. And because who we are continues, it moves us into a place of great love and potential. And then things begin to turn up roses. Things turn up golden. Everything gets sweeter and nicer. And even the challenges that we face them head on. We face them with a sense of deliberate action. We get right in there, not avoiding, delaying, stalling. No, we get right to it because we know how important it is. We understand how important it is. Life is an incredible adventure, or it's nothing at all. So you tell me, what do you believe life is? What do you believe life is? Rachel put in the chat, any advice on what to do if I have trouble leaving anger or emotion in one situation to then not carry it over into another? Well, the first is to express honestly. There's nothing wrong with anger. Misplaced anger, on the other hand, there's a lot wrong with that. So when we are when we're looking to share our treatments or to share these ideas, because we want somebody else there, we can do treatment and then invite that person through that process. And the universe always says yes. So why am I surprised? Why am I surprised when this thing happens? Because I'm still invested in the irreplaceable, divinely perfect Center for Spiritual Living as the Universal Joy Center. That's it. That's the thing. We're here. We're here and we're present and all is well. All is well. So as we get to the end of this show, we've still got about 10 minutes left. I want you to think about some different areas of your life. And if you feel comfortable, you can put it in the chat. Areas that you feel need some work. And I want you to think about that word work because we tend to work hard to earn a living. Let's not. Let's pretend we did. Let's not. Let's not. So think about that for a minute. This journey that we're on is spectacular. And I often think about, getting older and some of the things that tend to come with old age, which could be memory loss or fatigue or aches and pains here and there, vision changing, hearing changing, all of those things. Well, I don't think they have to happen. But they do. They're in the collective consciousness, so they do happen. But they happen differently for each person, if you've noticed. Some people live well into their hundreds, and others leave at 50 or 60. What is the difference? Well, there is no difference. We all leave, we all transition. It's just how and when. Those are the questions. And those are ones that, although we don't know the answer consciously in this moment, we do know. It's just hidden under the rubble at the moment, but we can move the rubble aside and we can step into living this fully. So this is where we're headed. This is what we want to do. We want to achieve something absolutely brilliant in our lives. And the only way we can do that is to live authentically. We have to become who we are. And yeah, some people are going to like us and some aren't. Some are going to, be thrilled to spend time with us, and some are like, oh, get me out of this room. It's all okay. It's all okay. What people think of me is none of my business. But what I think about me is of the utmost importance. So I want you to think about, for this week anyway, think about how you feel about yourself. Think about the way you talk to yourself. Are you saying, wow, look what I just did. I am so amazing. That's remarkable. I accomplished that. I'm really quite proud of myself. Or are we sitting back going, oh, you're such an idiot. That's so easy to do. Why couldn't you do it? You see, it's just in choice. Joy becomes a practice when we start to recognize that it is a quality within us that has always been there and that we get to share. We experience it and we share it. Unless, of course, we've decided that, no, not going to do it. I'm going to continue to struggle in the way that I choose to struggle. And Rachel put in, I'm having trouble leaving anger, pardon me, out of the way. Well, that's because, dear me, excuse me. I'm sorry. When something upsets us, we attach to it. We attach to it. And then we begin to describe it. You believe what so and so said or did to me. Or why is this happening to me? Why does this happen to me all the time? We sometimes talk to ourselves like that. And I'm going to suggest to us that we stop, that we find a way to be gentle and kind, that we find a way to be sweet and tender, to begin to treat ourselves in the way that we would want to be treated by another. Yeah. How do I want to be treated in the world? Maybe if I treat myself that way, I'll have enough to give to others as well. That's kind of how it works. If I'm loving and kind to me, then I find that I'm joyful and I'm excited about life in the day. And when I go out into the world, I go out with a happy feeling. And so I'm smiling at people and saying good morning to them and holding the door for somebody or letting somebody in traffic. Why? Because I'm happy. And I share that happiness. When joy shows up, the world is a sweeter place. When joy shows up, we feel better about ourselves and the world around us. And joy shows up when we choose to let it. So we are the gatekeeper. We are the gatekeeper. We're the ones kind of holding on. So I like to end the show, stating what I think is the most important thing to know from today's show. What is the greatest takeaway from today's show? So I just want to leave you with a thought, because I think how we treat ourselves, the way we show up in life, the way we think about ourselves, talk about ourselves, all of that has incredible value. And what we need to do is to be gentle. So let me leave you with this. May you be gentle with yourself this week. May you remember that joy does not depend on circumstances. It grows from awareness. And may you honor the beautiful truth that the world has never seen another person quite like you. Honor that beautiful life. Joy. Just one you. And that is more than enough. That is more than enough. There's just one you. Unrepeatable. Unique and special in every way, just like every other person. Well, well, here we are at the end of our show. I want to thank you for being here today. Thank you for watching. I know that some of these topics can feel a little, I'm not so sure about that, but when joy becomes a practice, life gets easier. That's what I will promise you. So just remember, you are enough. Well, this is The Joy Show you've been watching on the New Thought Media Network. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And by the way, NT Media is a not-for-profit. And if you would like to keep this program going and help us to keep all of the programming on the station going, please send in a donation to ntmedia.org and click the link, and you can send it in that way. I want to thank you again for being here. I hope something said or done today resonates with you and helps you to rise to an even greater expression of your authentic self. There's just one you. Love that one. Bye for now.